HypnoBiz. And as you all know, the HypnoBiz Australia conference is March 14th and 15th, 2020 in the Gold Coast of Australia. And we are now starting our interview series, but we are interviewing the presenters, and they're going to be telling a little bit about what they're going to present and why you should join us in the Gold Coast. And today, for our first interview, I am interviewing for the second time Jimmy Petruzzi, who's quickly becoming one of my favorite people just because he's like rock star cool. So thank you so much for joining me today, Jimmy.
Thank you, Selena. Great to be on the show.
So tell us about, do you have earphones or something? Because it's a little staticky that you could possibly put in.
Indeed,
just so we can hear you a little bit better.
Yeah, the earphones are on. Yeah.
Oh, that's a million times better. So tell us your connection to Australia and why you chose to speak at HypnoBiz Australia.
Yeah, it was a fantastic opportunity. I really enjoyed the New York conference. Selena, I think you've done a fantastic job, and the team, you guys did a fantastic job. And New York was amazing, and it was an incredible experience. And when the opportunity came up to speak in Australia, definitely 100%. And originally, I am from Australia, and for me, I go back a couple of times a year or once a year and run various talks, and mainly in the area of sport, but also now very interested in business in the Sydney area. But I felt this was a good opportunity to sort of, go up to Queensland, the Gold Coast, and speak as well. I love the way you guys organised the New York event, and I felt that this was a great opportunity to go out there and share my knowledge. And to be fair, all things said and done, this is an area that I don't often speak about in Australia. So it's going to be a great opportunity for me to introduce people to some of the work I do outside the work that they're used to seeing me do, which is mainly centered around business and sports. Is going to be more open to the general public, so to speak, in terms of how they can initiate change and get the best out of themselves.
And you said you are from Australia. You would never know because you have such an eclectic accent.
Absolutely. I've lived in a lot of places. I've spent most of my professional life in the UK and still do now. But I've lived in a lot of different places as well. But I spent most of my professional life in the UK. I went out to the UK in my late teens, early 20s, and never really looked back. I've got an opportunity to study in the UK. Then upon graduation, I got an opportunity to work with a football club out here, and never really looked back, and sort of carried on my ongoing journey to learning in different academic institutions. And it's been a great journey for me. And now I work as a consultant. I travel the world, and predominantly I'm based in the UK, working across a broad range of areas, some of the best athletes in the world, sports teams, sports people. I work in business, and also have a practice where I see clients on a regular basis too.
So you said you lived in Australia. How far is the Gold Coast from where you grew up, or where you were stationed?
I'm originally, I was born and brought up in Sydney, in the southwest of Sydney, and my parents were from Naples in Italy, and there's a lot of migration from Italy after the Second World War and beyond because of economic reasons. And my parents sort of went out to Australia to find some work, and I was born and brought up there. So where I'm from in Australia originally, the southwest of Sydney, is probably about, say, 2 hours flight, I would say, away from the Gold Coast, give or take. Probably say for the American listeners, probably say New York to Florida, roughly speaking.
Okay. All right.
But the other way around, it's like Florida. Like I'm more south, so you've got Queensland, New South Wales, and Victoria. So Brisbane being the capital of Queensland, and Sydney of New South Wales. So it's sort of travelling north, inadverse to New York, travelling south to Florida. It's like the other way around, and
And you've been to the Gold Coast before, yes?
Not for a long time, Selena. Not for many years. The only time I've been to the Gold Coast was when I was in my teens, and I went out there for a break for a few days. I suppose in one sense it's a bit like, say, how could you compare it to the USA? It's a little bit like, say, a place you might go for say spring break, so to speak. But it's quite versatile. Different people in Australia tend to retire there, but also some people move up there because the climate is a little bit warmer, or you could say in different parts of the Gold Coast more warmer throughout the year. So it tends to have people go up there, but also it's quite popular in the sense that people go there to have their vacation too from different parts of the country too. So it's been a long time since I've been there, and I'm really looking forward to going there and speaking, and it's raised some interest as well. Obviously, me going back there and me going to Sydney regularly and doing the stuff I do out there, some top sports teams out there, it's raised interest in terms of it's a great opportunity to be there and connect with people as well. So I'm really looking forward to meeting new people, but also connecting with people who know about my work as well.
So the Gold Coast would be more, I guess, like Florida, California, like a vacation place, like where it's the beach, sunshine, trees. Like,
It is. Well, in that sort of context, it is. And well, that's sort of my opinion anyway. Maybe there might be people watching from the Gold Coast who might think differently, but the way I sort of see it is, Sydney's a really busy urbanized area. Really busy, a lot of hustle and bustle, so to speak. And I think that the Gold Coast has got a slower pace of life, albeit over the years, obviously it's changed and there's a lot more sky rises and a lot more busy than it used to be, no doubt. But I think the sort of same principle applies where, sort of Florida, California type environment in the sense that it's a little bit slower paced than Sydney, and also, people do go there for vacation, and it's famous for its beaches. So I think people will really enjoy it. It's a great place to have a conference. I think, if you're going to choose to have a conference in Australia, it's a great decision to do a conference there because, outside speaking, people can have a break as well and just have some leisure time as well too.
Oh, well, I am so excited. This is my first time going to Australia. This has been on my bucket list for so long to visit Australia. So I just want to see everything. I want to experience everything. I just want to have a really great time. And I'm just so happy that, we're doing HypnoBiz Australia in this beautiful location of the Gold Coast. So at HypnoBiz Australia, you're going to be speaking about how to facilitate long-term adaptive behavioral and emotional change. Tell us what that is and why people should come to your presentation to learn this.
Good question, really. I think a lot of people want to change. A lot of people have the motivation to change, and change isn't always easy, emotional and behavioral, in the sense that we sort of get into these habits and patterns, so to speak. And I think most people have been there where they've tried, for example, to go on a weight reduction program in January, or a lot of people, for example, they look to change behavior. They want to get more confident presenting, or general changes. They might want to just make general behavioral changes, and they sort of start as they need to go on through willpower, and things break down. So for me, whilst I'm sort of, I think different modalities are quite good. I studied many modalities over many years, but equally in saying that we sort of tend to know the answers, and a lot of people tend to respond, a lot of people tend to react rather than respond. So one of the emphases on the seminar is how to use hypnosis and create experiences for people to create that experience for a person to change that navigation, that slight degree in navigation that can take them to a whole new destination, and to be really experiential. The analogy I use, Selena, a lot, and you've probably heard it before, and listeners may have heard it before, it's a bit like the film A Christmas Carol, Scrooge. He really, deep down inside, cutting a long story short, I'm sure most people have seen it. If they haven't seen it, you've got this sort of character, this central character who is just immersed by work, and all he does is work. He doesn't sort of socialize, and they call him a miser and miserable and so on and so forth. But he gets a visit from his ex-business partner, who's a ghost, and he gets visited by the ghost of the past, the present, and the future. But cutting a long story short, he has this experience where he sort of transforms overnight through this sort of experience. And when you look at his life and you go back to an early experience in his life and early experiences that shape his reality, one being a breakup in a relationship with his ex-partner, and he sort of sees her with the ghost of the past. And there's a pivotal moment where he doesn't get engaged and they break off the relationship. He goes into work and he immerses himself with work, and that's all he does. And he finds reward in work. He finds he can control that. He gets reward out of that. And obviously there's nothing wrong with that, but ultimately that's a pattern that's sort of recurring all throughout his life. And he then pushes people away. He's on his own, and it's a really, really big challenge in the sense that, you know, people don't really like him too much in one sense. And the reality is deep down inside he wants to change, but equally he's got this sort of front, this defense mechanism. And through the visit of these ghosts, whether it's real or not, because in the morning he's not sure if it's true or a dream, he creates a realization. And the realization, Selena, creates, that experience creates a change in identity. And how we define who we are impacts our behavior. He has this sort of change in state, this emotional experience that turns into a feeling and into a mood and becomes calcified through this big realization. A bit like we have an idea, an association, and a realization, a behavioral change, and then he transforms. And in the morning, he's a whole new character. He's celebrating in town. He's helping people out. He's connecting to his family. People are like amazed in the sense of this change. So, sort of cutting a long story short, for me, creating personalized experiences for people, and I've done that in sport, for example, when I was working in sport, still do now, but one time there was a young lad who was very behavioural, a lot of behavioural challenges, and he'd been asked to leave a number of clubs, Selena, football clubs, football being soccer in America, and as it's known in some parts of Australia. And he'd been asked to leave many, many different clubs. Could you please leave? His behaviour was too challenging. And because of my experience in behavioural change, he got sent to our club. And we were like a club in the lower tiers of the hierarchy in the football pyramid in the UK. And when he came to me, I couldn't find the way through. And people had tried didactic methods to get through to him. And didactic being, we know the answers for the greater good, and we beat ourselves up more than we need to beat ourselves up. So I took him out one day and I took him to a garage and said, you know what? If you get your head down, and I showed him a really, really nice sports car. I said, if you get your head down, you train hard, you know, you pull your head in, you behave yourself, and you sort of dedicate yourself to being a top footballer, then you got a chance to own that one day. And the irony was, I tried to create an idea, an association, and obviously behavior. And I'm not putting his success down to me, but equally in saying that at that point he seemed to have a realization. And he went on and became a player that played at the very highest level. Obviously still presented these challenges, but it goes to show how it takes a moment. And I've had this throughout my sports career, and a couple of examples I'll share with you, because, you know, time being of the essence, I know we're sort of bound by time, is that there was a young girl I was working with at the time, and she had a moment, an experience that changed her life dramatically. She's a trampolinist, and she competed at the very highest level, Selena, in trampolining in the UK. And what had happened, her friend, while she was on the trampoline, had burst her leg, or his leg, sorry, I should say. Exactly. So that really created a really intense emotion in the limbic system. And all the other people said to her, you can do it, you can get back on again, you can achieve greatness again. There was a lot of aversion in the limbic part, the primal structures of the brain, a lot of resistance, and she gave the sport away. Her mum tried me as a last chance Salou. I tend to be the last chance for people when they've tried everybody else. Let's try Jim. I always tell them you should have come to me earlier, but she came to me as a last chance, and I went with her and created experiences for her. And the experiences I created for her, I'm not putting her success down to me, but she was on the papers and sent me a text as well. Her mum sent me a text saying she's just taken silver in a really major competition, and she'd never taken that before. And it goes to show creating experiences for people is really powerful. And another note, very briefly, to highlight, for example, one time we were playing I was working at a lower league team. We were playing against a team in the highest level in the cup match. And the manager phones me up in the evening at midnight, and we had this really, really big game. And I said to the manager, this better be important because you woke me up, we have a big game together. He goes, I just want to run something by you. So what's the problem? He goes, I can't believe it. We've got a huge game. We've got injuries, suspensions, illnesses. We've got to play the young players. He's really going into victim mode. I said, well, put the phone down and call me up in an hour. And he did that. And when he phoned me up in an hour, his whole narrative was different. It was about, we've got a huge game tomorrow. the pressure all on the bigger team. It's an amazing opportunity to play with the young players. There's no pressure on us. So you can see the narrative that runs through our mind. So the point I'm trying to make too is what much as creating experiences for people, it's about dehypnotizing them as well. Because I sort of think hypnosis for me is not just about creating a trance, it's also about people going to these sort of trance states, limiting beliefs. You see it in business, people have apprehensive. I work with people who present presentations, they don't have the confidence to do that. I work with people with assertiveness skills too. They go into this trance state. For example, when a baby's born, if the baby wants, milk and food, will cry, but throughout our life, our emotions suppressed. And you see it, with young children, and the parents mean well, but the parents tell them, you shouldn't say this and you shouldn't say that. And I've done it myself in certain situations, but I try and backtrack really quickly. And the emotion gets suppressed. And as the emotion gets suppressed, the behavior has an impact too, because our feelings impact our thoughts impact our feelings, and behavior and physiology. So I sort of use strategies based on our beliefs, our behavior, our emotions, our physiology, and I aim to target all those areas to create change. So it's not just about coming through one session where they want cessation, weight reduction, whether it's to get confident presenting. It's like giving them skills afterwards to carry on and making a change. Because you don't do one training session and you're fit forever, one nutrition meal and you're healthy forever. You've got to keep at it. And I give you techniques to go away to facilitate long-lasting change. So that's sort of going off on a bit of a tangent, but gives you an idea of what it's about. That and more. It's going to be really, really powerful, really, really great stuff. Absolutely.
Wow. I love how you explain it, and how, like you said, when this person hurt their leg, right? That's like imprinted in your mind. And then now you have this phobia or this trauma or this memory, and it's a matter of clearing that out so you can continue and be the great person that you want to be. But if you have this photographic trauma in your mind, it's going to kind of be hard to move forward in that way.
Absolutely, and that's just a really great point. And we all have it to a certain degree, different experiences in our life, and that could be, trauma on a scale, on the spectrum, where, for example, we deliver one bad presentation where someone could laugh in the back of the room, or or maybe make a comment, a rude comment, or maybe we experience certain rejection, and that sort of imprints itself in the mind, like he says, and then obviously the amygdala, the smoke detector in the brain, it fires a warning signal, and it's implicit, it's unconscious. We don't know where it's coming from, but sometimes we know where it's coming from. Sometimes we don't know where it's coming from. We have this sort of stress response. The heart starts beating fast. We start to, to sweat. The heart rate goes quick. The blood pressure goes. This response, and for me, it's about training the prefrontal cortex, but also calming the amygdala down and using strategies that involve the prefrontal cortex after the event, but also to work with people and sort of calm that amygdala down as well, so they don't react in that way. Because the thing is, the stress response is normal. There's nothing wrong with responding in that way. The idea is really to modulate it. And in sport, one of the biggest things for me is our appraisal of certain situations. And that happens in life too, our appraisal of a certain situation. Like the analogy I use in sports, Selena, is where if you had to walk across a platform, say 20 meters long, it was only 2 feet off the ground, to pick up $1 million or £1 million, you would do it. Most people would do it, no hesitation. But if you put that platform up on the Empire State Building, and there was no wind, who would do it? And most people, even if it was safe to do it, you had like a net underneath. It's the same sort of proximity, but the appraisal changes. And that's what happens in sport. We sort of create these scenarios, that predictive text of the mind. It's a bit like, say, the phone, where you're tapping away and you want to write something, but you get predictive text and you have all these inventories, all these scenarios before you get a chance, and the mind starts reflecting, and also we think back too. So the goal is to sort of respond rather than react, but also to reappraise. And there's a lot of scientific evidence around reappraising being a useful way to calm the limbic system down, but the reappraisal's got to be appropriate and applicable to the person who is reappraising. So it's got to make some sense to them, in the sense that, it's got to have meaning, and it's got to have, or be done in a way that's useful for the person. Because obviously, saying to someone, you can walk across the, that little bridge, they're hardly going to sort of say, yeah, great idea, in the sense that the reappraisal is going to make sense to them. And the analogy I use is a bit like, say, telling someone a bit like telling a teenager to the error of their ways. They're hardly going to say, oh, thanks very much for suggesting that. If you tell a teenager you shouldn't smoke, it's bad for you, they're hardly going to say, oh, thanks very much for that. But if you took them to, yeah, exactly. If you took them to Emphysema Ward, they had a new idea about smoking, a new association, new behaviour. I'm not suggesting to do that, but it's sort of illustrating the point. It's, like someone telling themselves, okay, I shouldn't eat that chocolate cake or the ice cream. Well, we know, I shouldn't smoke, but creating an association to the experience to change that behaviour, I think, is really important. And we see it in life in general. And I think by normalising it, reassuring people things are working the way they should work, to the point that it's okay. I integrate a lot of mindfulness into what I do too. When I talk about mindfulness, it can work together in the sense that sometimes it's okay to feel that way. No emotion lasts forever. Ride the storm. Sometimes you want to mindfully change, where perhaps you might not be ready to change, and if you don't want to change just yet, just weigh up the consequences. And that's a really important thing for me too. But also being able to sit with it and sit with the emotion, because life's going to bring pain and suffering. And I think we live in a society these days, Selena, people are constantly running away from what they think is painful and what they think is going to bring them happiness. This society that we live in these days, and it's pretty much like this now in contemporary society, where people are always running towards this happiness and trying hard to avoid pain. But life's going to bring us all pain, to the point that we all experience loss, we all experience things in life that bring us challenges. And I think sometimes not running away from our adversity in certain situations and saying, okay, it is what it is. I'm going to sit down and find the appropriate person to work with to move forward. And that might not be me. It might be me. It might be someone they seek help with from a clinical point of view. It obviously depends on the person, because there is that fine line between clinical and performance as well. And I've worked in sport for many years, and there's been times I've worked with athletes who I've suggested that they go see a clinician. They might need ongoing help. So that's a decision they can make, and we can sort of sit down and decide. And, there's nothing lost in them sort of getting the appropriate help that works for them. So I'm not for everybody, and I certainly can't help everyone, but there's a lot of people out there with my experience of over 20-something years in hypnosis, and I've studied hypnosis around the world, and I've had some great mentors along the way. I've studied many different modalities like CBT, mindfulness, and I've studied psychology up to postgraduate level, and I've continued my journey into the field of neuroscience, and I've studied sports science too. So I bring a lot to the table in that respect. And for me, like I said, not everyone's for everybody, but I have a wide range of skills and experience, and I'm really hoping to help to do the best I can with the seminar and workshop, and I'm sure that there'll be a lot of people out there that'll get a lot of use out of it. Absolutely.
I love that you said, connecting the association with the behavior.
Absolutely. And we see it all the time in TV and in life around us. And one example I use, Selena, when I do the weight reduction seminar, is I talk about how there's an advert. I don't know if you had the same advert in the USA years ago. It's an advert I talk about because most people in the UK will have seen it. It is a few years old, but what they do is it shows how advertising primes people, obviously, to buy in one sense, but the advert was a drink. It was a soft drink, and what happens in the advert? There's a window cleaner who's got this sort of body of an Adonis. He's got this sort of yeah, exactly. He's got this six pack, and it looks like one of those Adonises, but he's being hoisted on a ledge. You can see him, and these girls are drooling over him. And these girls, and I first saw the ad when I was walking the streets of London after doing a seminar there. I'm wondering, what is this all about? And you hear the music. It's some really, really jazzy music, and it's really building up to a peak, and the girls are watching him, and then you hear the anchor, Selena. It's 11:30. It's 11:30. It's 11:30. So they do what you call an NLP, an anchor, and they're anchoring that. The music's really loud and jazzy, and you see this guy who's sort of looks like an Adonis, and they sort of connect all the dots really. And then 11:30 comes along. The girls probably don't know why they want the drink. I think it was the Coke advert anyway, but obviously they're compelled to want that. So if I advertise it, it'd be like, okay, here's water, chemicals, and sugar. I don't think it sells very well, but ultimately you see it a lot in advertising. I think for me, I talk about dehypnotizing people. If they're happy with what they're doing, Selena, then carry on. If it's not broken, don't fix it. I'm not one to say people shouldn't change, but if it's not working for them and they've tried different areas and avenues, then obviously there's things we can do. So for me, it's not about always hypnotizing, it's sort of because in that trance anyway. And that sort of applies to a lot of things in life where, we are and build all these associations and we have these beliefs, and a lot of them aren't even ours. They're passed on by people who don't always, a lot of people who pass these beliefs on, they don't mean any bad by it for the most part, but it's what they believe. And that belief could be in business, it could be about making money, it could be about being the best you can be. And they might say, the parent might say to the child, the best intentions, you'll never make it in sport, you'll never make it in business. They don't mean bad by it, but equally what happens is that it goes into your mind and it falls an imprint, and then you sort of live by that as a self-fulfilling prophecy throughout your life. And if you want to change, why wait? If you want to change, you can change. And as I said earlier before, certainly what I do is not for everybody, but I work with a lot of people who've gone through the system, and I'm not, against the system in many respects. It serves a purpose of great people in that system, but sometimes people don't get the results they want. There was a young girl I was working with, to sort of give you an example, and she'd had anxiety, Selena, for many, many years, and she'd been through the system, was seeing someone clinical, and I'm not advocating people, what they do, but she sort of said to me, it's been about 4 years since I've been outside, I hardly leave the house, I've got these really severe anxiety, and she had some other issues too. She goes, I'd like to work with you, I heard a lot about you, and I said, well, before I do any work with you, I'm going to need to contact your clinician and speak to her out of professional etiquette and courtesy and a protocol. So I emailed the clinician and said, well, your client has approached to work with me. I'm happy to work together. I'm happy to work with you if you see fit. This is what I do. This is my experience. This is my plan of action. I'll elaborate on after I've seen this for a consultation. And the clinician said, well, we talked about it, and my concern was if she sort of saw me, then could she go back, because she was getting treatment in the UK. You've got a health system called NHS, and she went through that, and I was concerned that she might not go back if she came and saw me. But with anxiety, it can be associated with many other conditions too. But she came back to me, and I was assured that it wasn't linked to anything else, because it could be an organic disorder, it could be that sort of came back, and I said to the young girl, I said, well, I have to work with you, but I have to forewarn you that if you work with me, I don't know if the clinician will take you back. And she goes, well, I've tried everybody, and I'm not leaving the house, so I want to have a go. And I'd use hypnosis, I use different techniques like regression and NLP timeline, and cutting a long story short, I know time is of the essence, so I use various modalities too. And within a few weeks, she'd got her life back.
Wow.
And precisely, and this was after a few years. And she also had fibromyalgia. I'm not a medical expert. I don't profess to be a medical expert, but I do a lot of hypnosis for pain relief. Before I do pain relief, I always make sure they go see a GP first. They get the pain examined, because it could be something else. And once they've done testing and it's not something else, I'm happy to help them with pain if it's appropriate. But anyway, that was one of the areas I was working with her too. And after a period of time, she got her life sort of back, so to speak. And I set a goal for her, and the goal was to go to a wedding, because I felt she could go to that, it would break a barrier. And everyone was really amazed because she'd do that. She got through the wedding, and there was a huge breakthrough in her belief. And then eventually she'd go on and start driving lessons, go back to college. We keep in touch to this day. Every now and again, she drops into seminars. Because we kept in touch, and obviously her parents were over the moon. She had a very functional life. She's sort of, doing really well. She has the occasional setback here and there, but as and when she does, we sort of work together. Ironically, one of the consultants she was seeing was one of the top experts in the UK for the area that she was being consulted for. His secretary wrote me a letter to know more about what I did. I said, there's nothing magical or there's nothing mystique about what I did. I'm more than happy to come and speak to you guys. So I'm very passionate about what I do. I really want to help people. I'm more than happy to come in and speak to you. We didn't follow it up, but that's life. But it really made me realize that how powerful this is. And like I said, it's not for everybody. And I certainly have a strict protocol and guidelines when people come to see me. I always make sure that, if there is an issue with pain or anxiety, to go see a GP first. Just the way I work, just to sort of make sure it's not coming from somewhere else. And all things being well, if it is, there's no reason why we can't work together. If everyone's happy, if there's a clinician as well, then I sort of run it by them, because the way I work, I sort of incorporate many modalities. It's been a journey through sports science, hypnosis, through psychology to a certain level, and neuroscience, many modalities. So I sort of cherry pick what I think is right for the person, and use my experience to create the experience for them. And the beauty about the way I tend to work is, you can never really be wrong. If this doesn't work, then try something else. And I don't push them beyond what they can't tolerate. Just extend the comfort zone, not sink or swim. Extend the comfort zone. Just one noticeable difference, like putting a rock on the hand, another rock, then one slight degree of variation, like the roundabout, and they go to a whole new destination. And I draw upon some experiences, and I really am passionate about that. I'm really excited about sharing that with the people who are going to come to the seminar. And the great thing is too, is that the seminar, just like New York, and obviously I'm coming back to New York to present again. The beauty is that, with HypnoBiz is what's wonderful about it is that, you got, contrasting cities and environments, and, great places in their own right. And I think the speakers as well, Selena, it's a great lineup of speakers. And I sat through many of the speakers, as many as I could do in the time I was in New York, and I was really amazed and thought, this is fantastic. And I'm the sort of person who's will sneak to the back of the room and take notes and learn, because we're always learning. I'm a lifelong learner, and I think it's really important to keep learning, because I don't believe any of us sort of know it all, and certainly I don't profess to know it all. And if nothing else, sometimes to reinforce learning too, and think, well, actually, you know what, it can be a pretty lonely world doing what we do. At least I think so sometimes, because you're off on your own, you're seeing your clients, you're doing your presentations, and you never quite know what you're up to sometimes. And I think that these conferences are great because we're all like-minded, we all support each other. There's no one trying to outdo each other. And that was the vibe in New York. No one's trying to sort of get above anybody else. We sort of shared ideas, and it was great to be around people, meet, new people, reacquaint ourselves with old friends and professional colleagues, and sit down by the bar like we did, or just informally, and talk about what's going on, and also share other experiences too. So that's going to be, I think, one of the great themes of the event too.
Yeah, well, I'm so excited that you came to HypnoBiz New York, this second year, and now you're going to HypnoBiz Australia. So you are part of our HypnoBiz family. And as you said, and you can attest, that it's an environment, it's a community where we learn, we grow together, we share. It's not about egos and who knows more than the other. We're all there to learn from each other, so that way we can best serve our clients. At the end of the day, is what can we do to help our clients? That's why our profession exists, to help people to be their best selves. So with the plethora of tools and techniques, from trainers, from speakers, the more we know, the better we can serve our clients, because we can pull out from so many different hacks. Like, maybe I'll do CBT, maybe I'll do some NLP, maybe I'll do anything. Like you said, maybe I'll do timeline. Whatever it is that you're learning, you can help the client, and then something may trigger them. You don't know which technique may, trigger that aha moment in your client. So that's the great thing about always learning. And I know that you are a person that's always learning, and that's what I appreciate so much about you.
Absolutely. And for me, it's just been a journey, and it's my passion, and it's something that I do and have done just out of pure interest, Selena. I love what I do, and I have a great opportunity to do it. And it's I was doing a course recently, and someone said to me, do you seem to love what you do and really enjoy it? I said, I do love what I do, and I do enjoy aspects of it and find it really rewarding. That said and done, more importantly, it gives me meaning. And they asked me, what do you mean by that? And I told them the truth. I said that, as much as I enjoy what I do, there's certain clients I see who are coming from a really troubled place, and whilst I find it rewarding working with them, I can't say I enjoy seeing people in pain in that respect. So enjoyment in the sense that I find it really rewarding, and I find it really great to be given the opportunity to be able to contribute in the development in the best way I can. I get a lot of meaning from what I do, and I think that's the great thing. And getting meaning in one's life, for me, I'm quite existential in the sense that I sort of think meaning is really important, because we're going to face adversity. I think getting meaning, and this gives me a lot of meaning, and it's something that I sort of read and research, even above and beyond, anything to do with the actual profession itself. It's a passion of mine too. I really enjoy it. I spend so much time reading and doing new courses, and my life learning journey. I've been very lucky to have gone to some great educational establishments across the world, and places that, had I applied to go when I finished school, when I could barely read and write, people can't believe it. And that's where I was, because I had to drop out of school early because my dad got injured at work, my mum got ill, and then I had to sort of leave school and start working. So I really suffered, and it was this that helped me. And I enrolled eventually to a university course, and that's when my life journey started. So I've written 3 best-selling books, 10 resource manuals. And I don't say that to brag. I'm not the bragging type, but all people know me. I'm the most humble person. The reason I say that there is opportunity and potential. And ironically, there's an irony in all these too. Selena, a couple of years ago when I was in Australia doing a tour out there, I was in Sydney, and I went to visit an old family friend. And as you do, I go to visit some old family friends, and when I'm in between work, and we're sitting in the back garden, we're talking, and his mum said to me, she goes, "How did you do what you've done?" She goes, "You work on radio, you've done so many courses, and people say you're the most qualified in your field." And I don't know if that's true or not, but I've done a lot of courses, and I'm continuing to study now at one of the prestigious universities in the world. She goes, how do you do that? You work with some of the biggest teams in the world. You were that young person who, fell in the wrong crowd, and you were up to no good, and so on and so forth. You could barely read and write. And I said, well, that's a really good question. Thanks for the vote of confidence. I didn't know whether to take it personal or not. I said that, I went to a seminar, and the seminar I went to as a 17-year-old, ironically, was a Tony Robbins seminar. You're probably familiar with Tony Robbins, most people are. And I worked all summer, Selena, to save money to see Tony Robbins, and I really valued it. I invested in myself. The money I spent to see Tony, everyone said to me, "What are you doing spending money seeing?" And this was back in the day. This is like, back in the early 90s. Not now. And it's become, people sort of accept it more. It's like, what in the world are you paying to hear someone speak? You're out of your mind. And I came from a really working class environment, really salt of the earth people, really, really working class, and I worked in a factory, and I was like, what are you doing spending that money seeing someone speak, and you're out of your mind? And I went to go see him, and something resonated in my mind. I thought, well, actually, you know what? I want to learn what he did, what he does. If he can do it, then I can damn do it. So I enrolled in hypnosis. I enrolled in NLP, and eventually I enrolled in university in the UK. I think you go to Loughborough University, but cutting a long story short, for me, that investment, Selena, that I paid, you can't put a price in. I think I paid about $600 Australian dollars at the time, and that's a considerable amount of money at that time. It was maybe like say $3,000 or $4,000 now in that respect. But the point being, if I put that money, Selena, in a bank or bought bonds or bought lottery tickets, I probably would have nothing out of it. I can't quantify I can't quantify what I've got back from it. I've helped friends, I've helped family, I've taken myself from being someone who probably would have been still working. And this is no disrespect to people working in a factory. They're great people. I've worked in that environment myself, but that just wasn't for me. I probably would have still been working in a factory now in a labour job, manual job now, if I hadn't had that spark, that thing in my brain. So I felt in my mind, it was an invaluable investment for me. And I've invested so much money on many courses on my journey, and I've paid for my own education at university. I've got no free ride off anybody. I've paid thousands and thousands. I've invested, I can't imagine the figure of what I invested in myself to learn through university and college and so on and so forth. But that investment, that seminar for me was immense. And I really say to people, you know what? I know sometimes it's not easy, money, it's not easy in that respect. I really, really appreciate that. We've got choices to make, but investing in yourself, if nothing else, I'm not suggesting that everyone investing in themselves is going to go on to do what other people do. But I certainly know in my mind that for me, the issues I had around belief, I had issues, and I had asthma really severe as a child, Selena, and I was the sort of person who spent so much time A&E, in seeing doctors and so forth, and the lack of belief I had in myself in the wrong crowd to go on and write 3 best-selling books and 10 manuals, to travel the world, doing seminars to some of the best sporting clubs in the world, to do some of the things that not for everybody, that's for sure, but for me, they were my goals. And I've had many tough moments too, but to be able to share my experiences that all started an embryonic seed for me, seeing someone. So I tell people that, that are watching this, there's no sales pitch, they do what they want to do, but I'm just sort of showing that, it takes a moment. And even if you don't sort of get that sort of return, reward in that respect, at least you sort of have the paradigm, the option to, make a more conscious choice. Because for me, one of the great things about HypnoBiz, there's so many speakers across a broad range of areas, you go in and see people across a broad range of areas. What I was really impressed by is sort of going in there and hearing people speak about what they do, and you can really learn a lot. I reinforced so much learning in New York, and New York's obviously one of the greatest cities in the world. It's not the greatest city in the world. And
this is true.
Absolutely. And in between, the speaking, to sort of go out there and experience other things too. And the Gold Coast will bring its own uniqueness too. I mean, not long ago, they had the Commonwealth Games, which is, the games, it's like a small version of the Olympics that Commonwealth countries compete in on the Gold Coast. And I knew a few athletes who went out there. I couldn't go because of work commitments, and they said a lot of positive things. So, people are going to really enjoy it. Great lineup of speakers, and obviously, if they decide they want to come to my seminar, they want to know more about me, they can drop me a line, and I'll send them whatever details they want as well.
Awesome. Yeah. I'm so excited. And for the people that are watching, you can go to HypnoBizAustralia.com. You can register for the conference. It's March 5th, 14th, and 15th, 2020 at the Gold Coast in Australia. You can participate in Jimmy Petruzzi's presentation, and he's doing workshop as well.
Absolutely. And I think that, the workshop is a great opportunity to give people an extended version of the actual seminar itself, because there's going to be people from the workshop, from the seminar, who think, well, actually, you know what, I'd like to sort of sit down, and whether they're therapists themselves, they could be, psychologists, psychiatrists, coaches, teachers. For me, it's about using the skills based on their remit, in accordance to their remit. So the actual workshop itself goes into hypnosis and cognitive techniques to help manage stress as well, the stress response itself, which is can be very debilitating. So I'm going to go into the workshop and sort of give them tools and techniques they can work with, and we're going to get practical experience to sort of sit down and really go through it. And I think that's going to be a great opportunity for people who want to sort of extend their knowledge and learn some new techniques, and then administer the techniques based on their remit. So I'm excited about living the workshop too. I think it's going to be a great opportunity to connect with people beyond the seminar too. Absolutely.
Yeah, this is so great. Well, I am just so thrilled and happy that you are going back to your roots and joining us at HypnoBiz Australia.
Absolutely. And that makes it extra special for me too, Selena. It really does. And Australia is one of my favorite tours. I tour the world, and I get to travel a lot of countries and tour. And whilst every country's got its own uniqueness, people say to me, where do you enjoy going? I said, there's no where I enjoy going more than anywhere else, because every country's got a whole different uniqueness. I mean, I love going to Italy because, my background and so on and so forth. I love going to America because there's a vibrancy and sort of can-do mentality about America, and a buzz about New York. Anything is possible. There really is. You feel so energized afterwards. But obviously, Australia's really special to me because it's where I grew up, and I've got friends and family there as well. So, I sort of, it's sort of great to sort of go back and reconnect with people. And the great thing is really, to be able to sort of share what I've learned over the years with people over there and make new friends too is really exciting for me, very much so.
Yeah, well, I am excited. Yeah. And for everybody that's watching, if you enjoyed this interview, give us a like, give us a heart, give us a comment. We love to hear from you. We'll respond to all your messages. And I just want to thank you so much again,
Thank
Jimmy,
you.
for your time, for your explanations, for your expertise, for your knowledge, and just sharing your passion and what gives you meaning and what gives you purpose. We're all here to help one another, and you exemplify that brilliantly. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Selena, and thank you for everyone watching. And I really and I appreciate everybody watching and you interviewing me. Selena, I think that the same sentiments. I think that we share very similar values in that respect, where we doing the best we can to help people. And I think HypnoBiz is a great place for people to go and learn to do that to the best of their ability. So I'm looking forward to seeing you again and seeing the rest of the HypnoBiz team and seeing the rest of the presenters and people who come along to the seminar. It's going to be a fantastic experience. I'm really excited. Thanks again, Selena.
Thank you so much, everybody. See you in the Gold Coast. Bye now.